Good evening, everybody. Today is January 6, 2020, and this is the first meeting at 2020. And this is an exciting night. We got a full house here, so it's great. We've got 2019 convening of the council and the beginning of the 2020, which is very exciting. So I'm looking very much forward to that. And if each one of you would please rise with me, I am going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice.
Okay, with the first bit of order after the pledge was done is our proclamation. And this proclamation, ladies and gentlemen, is about Law Enforcement Appreciation Day proclamation. And here we go. Whereas the health and safety of all Moscow, Idaho residents is important to the happiness, prosperity, and well-being of our families and communities. And whereas the city of Moscow is the proud home of many law enforcement officers. And whereas these law enforcement officers stand as leaders, educating the community about the importance of public safety. And whereas we appreciate the extraordinary efforts and sacrifices made by officers and their family members on a daily basis in order to protect our schools, workplaces, roadways, homes, visitors. And whereas each year COPS concerns of police survivors with the partnership of other organizations promotes National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day to show law enforcement officers that citizens recognize the difficult career they have chosen in public service to us all. Now, therefore, I, Bill Lambert, the mayor of the city of Moscow, do hereby proclaim the 9th of January, 2020 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in the city of Moscow, and I encourage our citizens to do something special for our community's peacekeepers and take the time to show appreciation for their massive sacrifices that our officers make while protecting our communities. And with that, I have the Chief of Police here, James Fry, as well as a bunch of officers that I'd like to come up and give this proclamation to. Okay, Chief, let's get them all. We got a group. Come on over, Chief. Come on over. Anywhere you guys want to be.
Photobomb that Tyson Barrett.
Really? All right.
We're not in it.
One,
We
two,
can't see her.
and smile. And we'll do another. 1, 2, smile.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll keep this short, but we are very fortunate to have the police force that we have, the men and women that go out every day, 24 hours a day. Doesn't matter what the weather is, whether it's flooding, whether it's heavy snow, no matter what the dangers are. We're very fortunate to have the officers that we have, and I'm very proud to accept this. Thank you.
Chief Fry and the other officers that are here, we have ladies and gentlemen, a very professional police department. These men and women are as good as it gets. I'd put them up against any force that we have in this state, and we get recognized with that through the state. So with that, helps give these guys a round of applause. Thank you, Chief. That's the fun kind of stuff I love to do, by the way. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to the next order of business, which is our regular agenda. And item number 1 is the approval of the Moscow City Council December 16th, 2019 minutes.
Would move to approve them as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim and a second by Catherine to approve the Moscow City Council December 16th, 2019 minutes. I will start to roll with Ann.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, we will move on to item number 2. Staff recognition report. Gary Reedner, do you have anything, sir?
Nothing other than the proclamation you already read.
Okay. Well, now we are going to move on to reports, and these reports are reports that I, as the mayor, or city council members, have had on various commissions and committee meetings which occurred since December 16th, 2019. With that being said, we haven't had a whole lot of meetings, so don't be discouraged, because if you want to come back to the next council meeting, you're going to hear a lot of them. So, and I'll start with you, Jim.
I have not attended any commission meetings since the last council meeting, so I have nothing to report, sir.
Okay? Arthur?
No report here.
Same.
Well, see what I'm saying, folks? You're getting off the hook. And they're not going to give me 20 minutes to talk about all the wonderful stuff through the holidays that I've done. I'll go with Brandy.
I have no reports.
I don't have any either.
I do.
Okay, Catherine, you've got the floor.
So on Saturday, there was the first collection of plastic materials at the recycle center, starting at 9:30 until 5:30, and we had 144 residents come through. I was there for the first 3 hours, and we collected over 720 pounds of plastic. So the next collection day will be February 1st.
Sweet, thank you, Catherine. And the only thing I have is I had a airport board meeting on the 18th, and we talked about the finances from the previous month, which was November. I'll have another meeting coming up towards the end of this month that will have to do with December of 2019. We did have one flight that was canceled because of fog, and now that we have an instrument landing system in that airport, we probably would have had at least 20 canceled flights. So we feel pretty good about that. We did have a mechanical one as well, but we also had 3 of them that had nothing to do with the airport whatsoever. It was a shortage of crew, or for whatever reason, some kind of a backlash from Alaska, where they couldn't get from one place to another place in a timely fashion. And the way that these flights work is it has a domino effect. So something that may happen in Eugene, Oregon, very well may affect us here in the Moscow-Pullman region, or something that happens in Seattle, or something that happens in Montana. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. But anyway, that instrument landing system is working, and we're very, very happy about that. And so we're moving forward with that. And that is all I have for reports. And usually I get a chance to talk a lot, but I'm going to keep this brief because tonight is not about the mayor and Bill Lambert. So with that, we will move on to recognitions and comments from our outgoing council members, and that being Jim Bohlen and Catherine Bonzo. And I'm going to start with Jim first. He's our council president. And Jim, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank all my colleagues that have served up here with me. It's been great to work with you all. It's been a really collegial group to work with. And I want to thank the city staff for always having information that we needed to make good decisions for the community, and for carrying out the decisions that we make. I appreciate that very much, and I think that's what makes Moscow a great place to live. I've been on the council for 5 years, and in that time, a number of things have happened that I think are positive. We've got the airport realignment done. We got a restroom in downtown. We have a bridge across 3rd Street. We have an underpass under Highway 8. Had a number of parks finished, including Blackbird Station. We got the police station bond passed. We got the Joseph Ball fields up and running, and we've got some new fire trucks. And all that's happened because of good priority-based budgeting and strategic planning that we put in place over the last 5 years. And so I'm very proud of what's happened, and I'm happy to have been on this council.
Thank you, Jim. Catherine.
Thank you. I'm going to start by thanking the staff. They've been super attentive. I appreciate the education, your patience, and your continuous progressive planning. I want to also thank Jen Piffner and Gary Riedner, especially when I first came on. You were very full of guidance, and I appreciated that very much. Mostly about process and perspective of how the decisions we make impact the city. And then I'd really like to thank the council, just as Jim said, that I've worked with, and the mayor, for being really invested, residents, and you're really accountable, and you think carefully, and it's nice to work with you because of that. The details that we really pay attention to. And then I really want to thank the residents of Moscow. I've appreciated this opportunity to represent and to work with the people of Moscow, and get done some of the projects that are started, and I've really enjoyed doing it. So thank you.
Okay. Now I get a chance to talk about each one of these, Jim and Catherine. I'm going to start with you, Jim. Jim Bohlen, 5 years ago, how it came about that he became a counselor was Tom Lamar had just been recently elected to Latah County Commissioners. And I thought and searched about who I wanted, and of course I had my eyes on this guy for ever since I was the mayor. So, and I've been the mayor of 7 years, so I had a kind of a jump on him. Because Jim Bohlen and I go back over 40 years ago. And this is back in my Safeway days where the co-op is. I was the store manager there, and Jim was a part-time meat cutter because he was working his way through University of Idaho at that time. And one of the things I've known about Jim Bohlen is he's a dynamic guy that's incredibly bright, and he doesn't say needless things. When he speaks with not only some authority, but he knows what he's talking about. And so I knew if I could snag Jim to get on council, that he would be a huge asset for this town, as well as our city government here. And when I first went out and sprung it on Jim at his shop, he wasn't that excited about being a part of it. And all.
I think the answer was hell no.
Yeah, and actually, I think the second time I went out there, I think we had to have a couple of beers or something. If I
Yeah.
remember right, I thought, well, you know what, I probably ought to take a few brewskis out there and talk to this guy, in all honesty. And there's one thing I can tell you about Jim Bohlen. If he's going to do something, he's going to do it right. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And he has been an integral part of this community for decades. And I've had the pleasure of knowing him. And of course, him and I were very young guys back in those days, Jim. We didn't have any wrinkles, gray hair, or we had a lot of hair at that time maybe. But anyways, just having some fun here. Jim, I knew he would take it seriously and he'd do a good job. And the reason he'd do a good job is because he'd be a voice for all of Moscow and not a segment. And I knew that. And Jim and I we can agree on things, we can disagree on things, and we'll work things through. And he talked about strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, and he was the epitome of how this really does work. And you get things accomplished, and it's for the betterment of our city, not the betterment for each individual, but us as a whole. And so with that, Jim, my friend, this is yours.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir.
you very much for your service and your
Bet.
work.
Thank you. Everybody wants to see that. That's a call.
Now I want to talk about Catherine Bonzo, and we heard a report from her earlier, just a little bit ago, and I call her the queen of plastic here in Moscow. And I say that lovingly and with some fun, because this lady is the one that really got the thing spearheaded and going when all of our recycling went awry, and all of a sudden we could have very limited plastic. We had all these different plastics, 1 through 10 or 1 through, I'm still not exactly sure what the numbers mean. But Catherine took it upon herself to really get this thing worked, and through her school have been able to achieve quite a success with us here, and I'm very proud of her for doing it. This is one of the most, this lady gets right in on things, and I'll tell you, when she first became a counselor, I'll never forget, and I'm going to have some fun with this because I'm not going to mention any names other than Catherine. But Catherine, when we had an organizational meeting with the council to determine who's going to be the council president, who's going to be the vice president, who's going to be on commissions, it was suggested by one of the more, if you want to use the term, senior counselors, that she would get stuck on whatever it was that was left over for her. And Catherine immediately came in and seen me, and I loved it, because how you make a change is you stand up for yourself and you do something about it. And this council over these last 4 years has been very excellent about not having a select person entitled to one specific thing. They've rotated things around where they've worked on different commissions, and we've had different council presidents, different vice presidents. And I got to tell you, this last 4 years as a mayor has been great for me, because it's been easy to work with through the strategic planning, priority-based budgeting, because all of these up here get it, and they've been wonderful to work with. And so I want to thank you, Catherine, for the work you've done. And now I'm going to let your colleagues talk a little bit about you, and I'll start with Randy.
I think you have an award that you wish to give.
Oh, I'm. See, I have this, I keep talking, I forget what I'm going to do sometimes too, but here you go, Catherine. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll follow the order here. Jim, I've known you for many years, and you are one of the most interesting and diversely talented people that I've ever known.
Thank you so much.
You are you all the time, which has made for some pretty fun sound bites over the years. I've admired your ability to set clear, achievable, practical goals, to not get bogged down by the details, to not be dissuaded when things get complicated or slowed down or maybe even seem impossible. You don't buy that. So you have a way of keeping things simple and persisting to accomplish a lot of things. So I've loved that. I'm happy to say, too, that I can thank you for encouraging me to run for city council rather than curse you. So I've enjoyed it, and I think seeing you enjoy it and what you were getting out of it was a big part in that. So thank you for your time and sharing your talents here, and I hope you continue to play at the city staff picnic. Catherine, I first met Catherine when my now senior in high school daughter was in preschool. Catherine was her teacher, and my daughter was here too. So it took me a while to kind of move past thinking of you as Miss Bonzo, but I've really appreciated getting to know you on this different level. Maybe it's the teacher in you, but you have taught me that these meetings are not just about the council deliberating and making decisions, but it's also an opportunity to engage the public and to involve them more in how the city works and what's going on in local government. And I think about those things now in our meetings, that's also what's a very important part of what we're doing when we're up here talking, engaging the public. So thank you for that. I will miss your collaborative and inclusive way of decision-making that, again, maybe comes from your experience in the classroom, but it was a very valued and I think helped us to all have very respectful and collegial discussions, whether or not we agreed. So thank you for all your time and dedication.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buck the system and go with Catherine first. I want to thank you, Catherine, for your relentless nature. You get something in your, and I don't think it's your teeth even. It's an idea that you know is for the right reasons, and you just hang on until it gets implemented. And I really admire that. I think this whole plastic recycling thing, I would have dropped off on the side of the road about 6 months ago, and you hung in there. And I really strive for that in my own life. So I appreciate that. And again, we disagree. Similar to Brandy, we have good disagreements and we walk away and we still are okay afterwards. So I appreciate that. Bohlen, buddy, you're the only person that I know that can have a meeting with beer involved and still make a sound decision at the end of the meeting. My very first experience with you, drinking beer, standing in your business, watching the slaughter occur, and thinking to myself, I really like him. He makes good sense. I can't hear half of what he says because something in the background's making noise, but he's really magnetic. There was something about you that I wanted to keep listening to. So thank you for that, the sage advice. Thank you for the moments letting me watch what you do for a living. That's kind of cool. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Gene.
Arthur.
I'll start with Catherine, too. From the very first day when you were sworn in, before you were sworn at, you were in here and did not take no for an answer on anything. You didn't put up with any nonsense from anybody. And so that's one of my best memories of you, is not only standing up for yourself, but changing the outlook and attitude of city council from that point forward, where each person is valued for who they are and not just the junior member and, go away and sit down. And so I very much appreciated that, your fact where you stood up for yourself and did what was right. And you, James, always a turn of phrase that I wish I could say and get away with the way you do. Although you have ruined my running bet of 4 years where you're going to slip and something profane was going to fly forth, and now I'm crushed. I've lost this bet that I've had for 4 years running now. But it's been a joy and a pleasure serving with you. You're practical, always focused on the end result and less on the process, and that's been great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I hope. I really admire you, Catherine, and I think in terms of culture on the Moscow City Council, I think you've been a real trailblazer in terms of opening things up and facilitating dialogue and what everyone else has shared this evening. And I think that in terms of a public servant, that you're what everyone should want, and that you stepped up and you said, I'm going to do this for one term because people should be involved. And, it's up to the citizens to make choices and be involved in government, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be in public office, but I just really admire that about you. I think that's really great, and I can tell that you did it for the right reasons. And I think, too, that it's really inspiring that we see you do things as an individual outside of that role, too. I think all of your work this last year shows that you can make a really big impact, again, not even if you're in an elected position, but I think you've done such a wonderful job. Thank you. And you crack me up, and I'm going to miss you a lot. I think that you've done such a wonderful job. I think that you are someone who is able to kind of see everything that's going on and make a succinct judgment call on that. I think you've done a really great job about that. And I can tell, I know I feel this way, that when you say something or share something, that it really resonates. And you crack me up. I don't know who's going to be the funniest counselor when you leave. I guess you'll be the funniest one, Bill. In my opinion. It's a close competition now, maybe, but.
That's a compliment.
Well, we all got to laugh at ourselves once in a while, too, so thank you.
I think it's often intentional. But I'm just going to miss both of you. I think that you've done a wonderful job.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Bohlen, Catherine Bonzo. Oh, no, we still have a little business here to take care of. Okay, with that, we will move on to the oath of office administered by our city clerk, Lori. So, Lori, I will let you take over from here.
Want to join us? Maybe sworn in again? All right, here, three of you, in the line here. And if you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Sandra Kelly,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
in the city of Moscow,
In the
Latah
city of-
County, Idaho,
in the city of Moscow, Latah County, Idaho,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Perfect. And we would normally do alphabetical, but I'm going to start with you, Ann. You always have to go last.
It's always first or last, always.
Go first today.
Go ahead and sign your oath. And Maureen. Right the back.
Catch. Thanks, Lori.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the 2019 City Council.
I make the motion to adjourn the 2019 City Council.
Seconded.
A motion by Brandy and a second by Art to adjourn the 2019 City Council. I will start with Catherine.
Aye.
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 Okay, now we will reconvene. We will, our folks up here, so we're going to take a few minutes and do that, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you again, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
That'll work well.
Okay, we will reconvene the 2020 City Council. And with that, we are going to talk about the council organization, and I am going to turn it over to Brandy Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Lambert. Earlier this evening, we held the annual workshop, the first, prior to the first meeting of the year, where assignments are made for president, vice president, the members of the Public Works Finance Committee and administrative committees, and all the commission and other board, council liaisons, and positions. So I would like to start by announcing the council president is myself for 2020. Our vice president is Art Betke. And I think we need to entertain a motion to accept.
You can either do that or do the Administrative and Public Works Finance Committee at the same time.
I'm going to do the committees then at the same time. So for the Public Works and Finance Committee, the assignments proposed are Gina Trucio, Sandra Kelly, and Art Betke. And on the Administrative Committee, Ann Zabala, Maureen Laughlin, and myself. So now I would entertain a motion to accept those assignments.
Second.
I move that we accept these assignments.
All right.
She can't make the motion.
Did you second?
Yes,
Okay.
before the first.
Who cares about order? Here we go.
Okay, yep. All right, so we have a motion and a second. I will start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
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 All right. Moving on next, for the commissions that we all divide and conquer here, serving as a bridge to our volunteer commissions, as well as a few other boards. Typically, at the end of our council meetings, we all give reports, which is what we did at the beginning tonight. We had no reports, but we thought to mimic that tonight, we're going to start with Ann, who will tell us which commissions and boards she is nominated to serve on for 2020.
The Arts Commission, the Farmers Market Commission, and the Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee.
And Maureen.
The Human Rights Commission, the Sustainable Environment Commission, and the Moscow Volunteer Fire Department.
Great. Moving on to Art.
The Building Code Advisory Committee, Historic Preservation Commission, also the Palouse Knowledge Corridor, and the SMART Board.
Gina.
I'll be serving on the Fair and Affordable Housing Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission, and then the Clearwater Research, Conservation, and Development Group as well.
And I will be serving on the Moscow Pathways Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the 1912 Center Facilities Committee, and CETA.
All right. And I will be the liaison for the Transportation Commission and the Tree Commission. So with that, would anyone like to make a motion to approve this slate?
I move we approve the slate of commission representation.
Second.
All right. We will start the roll with Sandra.
Aye.
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 Okay.
And there's one other, there's another mayor's position appointee, and that's for the Urban Renewal Agency, a 2-year term, and I have appointed Brandy Sullivan, and so I would take a motion from this council.
I move approval of Brandy as Urban Renewal Agency member.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Art and a second by Gina to approve Brandy Sullivan for a 2-year term on the URA. I'll start the roll with Ann.
Aye.
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 Okay, very good. We'll
Your
do-
Honor, you have Sandra Kelly also on the 1912 Center Facility Committee.
I had it somewhere. Here we go. There's a lot here, folks. And, well, yeah, Sandra Kelly as well on the 1912 Center Facility Committee.
I move we approve Sandra Kelly for the 1912 Center Facility Committee.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Gina and a second by Art, and I will start this roll with Ann as well.
Aye.
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 Okay, I think we've got them all, folks. Okay, very good. These commission, as council liaisons to these commissions, it's really very, very, very important, and it helps stability within the commissions that we have throughout our town, but it also gives our councilors a real hands-on look at what each one of these commissions are all about and what they're doing. And so it's a learning curve for council as well. So it's a big deal for everybody, but the commissions as well as our councilors. So it's a wonderful time for that. And it is a big deal. With that, we will move on to item number 7, which is public comment and mayor's response period. Well, where I allow 15 minutes total of time for folks if they want to get up and address us. And usually it's kind of fun because this is at the front of the meeting. I say, as long as it's something that's not on the agenda, well, this is the last part of the agenda, but it cannot be something in front of the Board of Adjustments and/or Planning and Zoning. So if anybody's got some comment would like to come up, I'll give you 3 minutes. What's a good way of starting off 2020? I got a comment that, is there somebody back there? I see somebody raise your, if you want to speak, come on up to the podium, sir. Well, if you want to be,
Come on up.
if you want to be recognized, you have to come up here, and you got to give us your name, son.
So my name is Josh West, is my name.
Okay, Josh
So-
West.
Josh.
Mine's more of a political protest. So I'm just concerned that the United States of America has become a military complex because we've occupied the nations of Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years, and we've committed murder in those countries for 20 years. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have an announcement that the Director of the Chamber of Commerce has asked that I announce,
Okay.
that there will be a lunch catered and donated by the Mad Greek for all women and men of law enforcement on January 9th at the Chamber of Commerce at 411 South Main Street, and an opportunity for the general public to say thank you.
Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. I've got one thing I do want to say. I had, this is kind of an interesting thing because the previous council, I had 4 women and 2 men. Now I've got 5 women and 1. And I had somebody ask me this, so I got to share this conversation with, some of these have already heard this. And so I said, this person said to me, I'll never forget this. And I've shared this with some of the folks up here. How are you going to get along with 5 women? And I said, well, oh my God, let me think about this for a minute. Well, let's see. My mother was a woman, and I loved her dearly. My late wife was a woman. I loved her dearly. My present wife, I loved dearly. My 2 daughters-in-laws, I loved dearly. My stepdaughter, I loved dearly. My 4 granddaughters, I loved dearly. I guess you could say I kind of love women. So now why in the world wouldn't I get along with 5 women counselors? And I did that in a way I didn't want to. I wanted this person, it was a male, by the way, it wasn't a female, that asked me this. And I wanted to get it because it was like kind of a dumb question, don't you think? I mean, that's how I felt about it. So I thought I'd give him that kind of explanation. And I kind of felt sorry for the guy because I don't know if he's ever had that many women in his life that he's loved or not. So I just left it at that. And the point is the previous council I worked with were terrific. I'm looking very forward to working with this council of women and one man, right, Arthur? And we're going to get a lot accomplished. The town is our forefront for us. And look, we have very little to do with state politics. We have very little to do with national politics. The only thing we can do is do the best we can for our city here in Moscow, and that's what we all plan on doing here. So. With that, Gary, do you have any reports you want to add?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, with that, ladies and gentlemen, after we adjourn here, we're going to have a reception out here in the hall honoring our new council. And so please stick around and you're invited to be with us. And with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Let's adjourn.
Second.
Yep, second.
All in favor, aye? Any opposed? We are closed, ladies and gentlemen, 7:37. Thank you.